Welcome back, everyone, to Data Science for Everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about objects in JavaScript. Let's get started. So first off, objects are another compound data type in JavaScript, similar to arrays. Now, they hold a collection of values, but again, that's the way that arrays work. Now, the difference is that objects use strings called keys instead of numeric indices to access the values. Each key is associated with a specific value, forming a key-value pair. So let's actually take a look at how would we create an object. Okay, so first off, we'll do let. And we usually want to, again, give it some sort of name. So let's call this a book. And we'll use the assignment operator. Now, instead of like an array using square brackets, we use curly brackets. And here you can add in a lot of information. So, so that would be an empty object, excuse me. And if we want to have some internals inside of here, so we could say something like the book, we want a title, and it's let's give it a title called My Cool Book. Then we can have another one, and let me actually make this look a little bit nicer here. Then we can have a release, or released, let's say. Then we put a colon in here, and we'll say it was published in 2023. Then we can also have something like author, and we'll call this, let's say, Bob the Bookish. Okay, and so again, this here is going to allow us to create an object. Now, the basic standard is you have a key, such as title, then you put a colon and then a value. Now, if you noticed here, this key value pairs here can be anything. So we can even add in something like, let's say, let's I don't know, let's say content, for example. Now you can actually even put in here a list. And so we can say something like chapter 1, chapter 2, etc. And you could put in, and then, you know, maybe even have in some index. Then you can also have in something like, let's just call this was, let's do this. Maybe say self-published, and we'll call this true. So again, if you notice here, we can have all types inside here. We can have an array, we can have numeric, we can have content, we can have a Boolean, and you know what, we can even put this, let's actually go and we'll add in one more in here, and we'll call this price, let's say. And so we can have something like it was $23.40. Okay, so we hit enter, and now that is saved under the title of book. So we can go through now and we can access each of these items using the key. So we have book here, and the way to access any of these is with these square brackets, and here we can say author, and it's Bob the Bookish. Now, if we wanted to get inside the book and do the price, we can grab the price. And so again, each of these now we can access this, and this is basically, if you're used to Python, this is called a dictionary in Python. But in JavaScript, it is an object, and we can access them. Now, another way you can access things is with the dot syntax. So here, book.content, we can access the content of the book. And again, if we wanted to access that, then you could do book dot content, and I don't think we should be able to do that, but we should be able to do something like 2, and that's going to give us this error. But if we wanted to access, let's do 2, you can use the bracket syntax to go inside of this array. So again, you can use either one of these, but again, if, for example, let me clear this and we look at just book by itself, notice that it actually gives us a nice look of the book, but it doesn't actually allow us to extend it or anything else. Oops. Oh, and that's because there, we didn't hit enter. So if we have, when we click this little notation here, this little triangle here, we can actually access it and we can get in deeper. And again, you can see that we have the length of the array inside of here. We have what it is. It's an object prototype, and it gives us, again, all of these different types of things that we can utilize in it. So we can do toString, to local string, prototype is of, etc. So let's go on and talk about working with each of the of objects itself. Okay, so we can also add in different types of items inside of the book as well. So let's do book, and let's say and let's call it, maybe let's put in a quote inside of here. So a famous quote from the book. And you can do equals here, hello, welcome to my world. Okay, so now if you look inside of book and take a look here, notice now we have quote. Okay, so we can actually put it in just like we would with any other item. Okay, you can use the dot syntax or you can use the quote syntax. So let's do book dot pages, let's say. Okay, so we can make this that the book is 452 pages. Okay, and if we look at book again, notice here we have now pages. It puts it in for us. Okay, now again, the reason that I put quote at the top here is because it's a capital Q, it's not an uppercase Q. It will try and put it in some alphabetical order for us usually, but again, it doesn't necessarily have to. Again, we've talked about accessing each of these using the different types of notation. So let's also talk about how do we actually know. So let's say that you are given an object that you don't really know what's inside of it. Okay, how do you know what keys you can use? Okay, well, you can do the book dot. Well, actually, here it's object dot keys book, and it will give you out an array of the keys. Now, again, this is fantastic because now you know, oh, I can utilize each of these items to be able to grab a hold of what I want. Okay, and again, it also gives you a numerical value as well. So then, again, later on, you could say, oh, I want to be able to grab the price. Okay, because again, maybe this is a huge object. Okay, maybe it has 1,000 entries into it. Then you can say, oh, I want price. Okay, and after searching for it, then you can go through and say, again, book dot price. So another thing that we can do is, again, we have, for example, we have we grabbed the keys. We can also grab entries. So we can do object dot entries book. And if you notice what's happening here is it's creating up an array. All right. So here what it's doing is it's giving you a key and its item. Okay. So a key and a value pair. It's giving us each of them is a list of the key and value pair. Now, if we go here, you can see that when we did content, though, it just says content and some array with length 3. Okay, you would have to actually go into it to actually look and see what that is. But again, this is giving you up a list of lists of key value pairs. So another thing that we can do, and so in this instance, let's clear this. Let's create up 2 more objects here. So let's do let, and let's say cats is equal to, and so let's say that we have fur, okay, long. Oh, and let's make this long. We have, let's say, eye color here is going to be blue, and we have for color here is going to be, let's say, black. Okay. Oh, and blue is not defined again. So what I should do here again is black and blue are strings. Okay, and just for the sake of it, let's do number of legs, and let's say that this is a 3-legged cat. Okay, now that's great. That's physical characteristics of this particular cat. Okay, and so, and I named it a cat, but that's okay. But so let's say that they are, you're just talking about a specific cat that you see. Well, what else would you want to add in here? So let's say let cat food. Okay, so what does the cat, maybe not cat food, cat features. Okay, so maybe you have some extra features you want to talk about on this particular cat. Okay, so let's do paws, small, ears, pointy, and we'll do weight here, and let's say that it's 5 pounds. So you have cats and you have cat features. Each of these are 2 separate objects. Now, what if you wanted to put them together? Okay, well, you can do this by using the assign. So you can do object, oops. We can do object dot assign. Having trouble typing today. Object dot assign here, and we can have our cats and our cat features. Now, when we do this, okay, it tries to put them together. And if we look at cats now, oops, okay, it has put them together. Okay, so that's kind of nice, isn't it? So let's say, though, that we wanted to merge 2 other items. So it won't make a whole lot of sense, but let's just put let and say our objects. Okay, and it's going to be empty. And we want to merge in our object dot assign here, and we'll call this as our objects. Okay, and we'll put in together our book and our cats objects. Okay, so if you notice, what it's going to do is it's going to assign both of these into our objects. So if we look at our, our objects, when we take a look at it, now our objects actually created kind of a double object, okay, a big object for us. It merged in together book and cat into our objects. Now, this is a fantastic way of merging these two instances together into a single one, or just as we did with the other with our cats and our cat features, we merge those two together to create one, but inside of cats. So again, it just depends on how you want to assign new objects and how you want to create them. But it's a fantastic way of keeping and storing data in JavaScript. Now, one of the next things we want to do is something we've kind of already covered a bit, and that's nesting objects and arrays. So we can say let and say what here? Let's say movie trilogies here. Okay, so and we're going to make this an array. Okay, and we're inside of it. We're going to put in an object. So we can say title here is going to be, let me think here. So let's actually grab maybe the Batman trilogy, let's say. So first off, we have Batman Begins. Okay, we have the author. And here, or not author, let's do the year. And here, and it's 2005. And actually, maybe what we'll do is, let's make this a little bit more complex, okay? So let's do trilogy in here. Okay, and say the Batman trilogy, okay? And we will do years. Well, let's have a list of years. So these came out in, what, 2005, 2008, and 2012. Okay, whoops. And the next thing that we want in here is the name of the movies, right? So movies, and they had 3 movies. They had Batman Begins. We had in the Dark Knight, and we have the Dark Knight Rises. Okay, so now that gives us the Batman trilogy. We have years, 2005, 2008, 2012, and again, those correspond to each of the 3 movies. Good. Now that is the first trilogy here. Let's go on and grab a second trilogy. And let's grab the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Okay, so we're creating up another object in here. We will have trilogy, and here it'll be, I was going to say LOTR for Lord of the Rings, and we'll do years here, and we're going to have an array, and we're going to say 2001, 2002, 2003, and we'll have movies in here, and this will be the actual names of the movies. So let's see here. I got to remember them. It takes me a little bit of issue. All right, so, and I'm going to skip the Lord of the Rings, and I'm going to say the Fellowship of the Ring. And we'll say the two towers. And we'll do the Turn of the King. Now, again, I know some of you are going to say, oh, you forgot The Hobbit and those others. Well, I'm not going to count those for this one, just so that we have two trilogies. All right, so let's go on and create this. Now we have our movie trilogies. So this is a great way because now we have multiple items inside of one big object. So if we look, and let me clear this, and let's take a look at our movie trilogies together. And notice here that it looks like just an array and it's been condensed, right? Well, now we have this item 0, and it's going to be some our trilogy information, then item 1. So we have 0 and 1, and we're going to grab in. So if we wanted to access these, we could do movie trilogies, right? And we can grab in, let's say 1, and then we can say dot movies. And notice now we can grab in all of that information in there. And it's going to be, again, all stacked inside, and we can keep it nice and neat and orderly. Now you can also do something like this. Again, you have a lot of information in there, right? And so let's do something like movie trilogies, and you know that you have some item 0, right? And then you can do dot values. Oh, not values, value. And again, here it's going to be undefined. Okay, so why is it undefined in this instance? Well, it doesn't actually have any specific value. It's a list of values in here. So if we wanted to do something a little bit different, we could. All right, because again, why? Values it doesn't exist inside of trilogies, and value doesn't exist inside of trilogies. So again, if we wanted to access anything inside, let's do movie trilogies dot keys. Does this work on here? No, because it just says it's an array iterator, because still right now this is an array. All right, so it's not just any of the objects, okay? You can't just use it in this. This is still an array. So if you wanted to access the keys, you could do movie trilogies of 1. What is going on with my keyboard today? All right, dot keys. Okay, and again, notice here, it's still going to give us an error, okay? Because movie trilogies dot keys is not a function, okay? Because remember, this is what? We're trying to access this in the wrong way, right? So again, this is just a review of what we've went over before. So we can do object dot keys, and then we can say we have our movie trilogies. And again, notice if I do keys here, it gives us just 0 and 1. But if I do this for object 0, we get our keys for inside of our movie trilogies. All right, so we've gone through our nested items, okay, and our nested objects and our nested arrays. Now, we've also been able to explore these inside of the console window. So again, this is a fantastic way to utilize these objects, okay? Is to store our data and keep our data with us and pass it around. Another type of thing that we can do is to, maybe we want to be able to print these objects, okay? Well, we can do that with JSON.stringify, and we can have this with our nested object, and let's do this as movie trilogies. And notice this actually creates a string. Now, the one issue that I want to show you here is that this isn't technically a JSON right now, because this has these array pieces in here. If we wanted to have, for example, a nested object, okay, not just an array inside of a nested object, we can do that by utilizing, again, just another. So let's just make it really quick. So nested here, and let's do something like this. Let's do name. Let's do outer content here. And notice here, I'm going to do another object and call this name middle. And then we'll do content here, and I'm going to put another one just for good measure, name, and this is going to be inner here, and finally our content going too far. Okay, so now we have this nested item. And again, just as I showed you a second ago, we can JSON stringify this. And again, it's another way to do a nice printing on it. So JSON.stringify here, and we can do our nested. And again, this is a nice way to print everything out. And again, if you notice, it's enclosed inside of a string. And here inside of single quotes containing our JSON representation of our nested object. Now, this is equivalent of an original object literal that we just created up here in our nested environment. And just like JavaScript, JSON uses braces to enclose objects and colons. And this is very useful for us if, for example, we want to maybe to recreate something that we can pass in, all right? So we just printed this. So let's also save this as nested JSON. And we'll call this JSON.stringify of nested. And now notice that we actually can do this console.log of our nested JSON. And it comes out in a nice, neat print. Now, the stringify actually has a replacer and a space. So maybe you want to make it stand out just a little bit more. You can do something like null for the replacer and 2 for the space. Okay, so notice here now it gives us a nice, some nice syntax in here. So with these spaces and some new lines. So if we go in now and do our console log, notice now it looks quite pretty whenever you want to have that output. So you can, again, you can codify that inside utilizing your JSON string. So in this section, we've talked about compound data types. Specifically, we've been talking about objects. And these are, again, objects are what? There are collections of key value pairs, which each key is a string, and the values are often a different type of data. So this is, we've also seen in the previous videos, we've talked about arrays. And again, this is very similar to making lists in other programming languages. Now, objects are extremely useful for collecting up multiple pieces of information about a single entity, such as information about a particular book or movie, as we've seen in this case. If you guys like this video and you want more of these, please comment, subscribe, and hit that like button, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.